Hi, and welcome back to the Utajua Hujui podcast. Now, a quick word before we get in. Your girl Aileen has a little bit of a potty mouth, which means she does not mind her language and she speaks the fluent French. Which is all to say that I understand that some people are a little bit uncomfortable with this language, so here's just a warning for you. If, however, you are not uncomfortable and you would like to learn about the world around you and capitalism and colonialism and just like all this fun shit with a dazzling, brilliant, and funny host, if I do say so myself. Keep listening. Hi, ho, hello, and welcome to the Utajuro Hujuri podcast. I am back. It's my lovely voice. Hi.
Your voice is not that lovely.
It's quite nice. Some people say it is like a babbling brook. It is it is that note, that it is that secret chord that David played that pleased the Lord. That's what it is.
Oh, I thought you were going to say it's as noisy as a babbling brook.
No. Okay, you want to introduce yourself. You don't have to be so rude.
I heard there was a secret chord. Hello, and what's the saying? Hi, ho, and hello, and welcome to the Utajua Hujui podcast. That first intro meant nothing. This second intro means everything. Brought to you by her biggest guest. In fact, the guest where she can't work without. The one and only, her husband, sorry Haroon.
Okay.
Kariithi.
Work husband,
GK
asterisk, work husband, and we no longer work together.
That means nothing to me.
I feel like it means everything because that marriage was highly contextual.
I'm sorry, I reject you.
Oh my God, speaking
Divorce
of...
has to be mutual, and I reject.
Well, fair enough. Yeah. Okay, so how have you been?
Great. Waiting for the second part. We didn't even get to the assassination.
We didn't. No.
You spent so much time talking about this guy's past, talking about the
because you need to understand where he's coming from to understand why people thought he was such a threat. Because if I tell you that there's this politician that like talks a good game, yeah, there's so many.
What's the context? That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
What's the context?
Yeah.
And by the way, I saw the way you advertised the last episode. Please, people, I am not pro-Russia. Relax. Damn. You actually played the national anthem of Russia.
No, the USSR, not the Russian national anthem. USSR. There is a
swear
difference.
that's still there.
There is a difference. No. However, okay, it can't just be me. As from one music lover to another, the national...
It's brilliant.
Thank you. It's a beautiful national anthem. I feel socialist for like 3 minutes.
It's so much better than the ones who beat them. And the rockets red now. And those people,
The Americans.
Number one, I mean, the one thing the Americans have is that they gave their song to interpretation. Like, you can edit their song. Like, you've seen different versions. The best version I've ever seen, Whitney Houston.
Oh my God, that was amazing.
1992 Super Bowl.
And she did it in a tracksuit or something.
Yeah,
she wasn't
and
even
it was
dolled
just
up.
incredible.
Oh.
This was before she became Whitney Drugstone.
Oh, come on, that was pathetic.
Before she became an addict of crack.
Talk about a Maya Angelou. No, wait, no, I had it. Never mind. Don't? No, it's too much
Failed.
work. Go
you
on.
have failed.
Go on. Moving past my failure.
The worst one we have ever seen, I think we can all
Fergie.
agree, is Fergie.
She tried.
So the American national anthem, very good because we can edit it and play around and make.
It's very American.
Yeah, but to be honest, it's not. It's like number 50. I think that's even too high.
It is.
It's not that good of a national. In fact, their other one.
Which one?
Is it called America the Brave? I feel that's a better song.
Because they have two of them, but like only one is.
America.
Okay, yeah.
Just show how much we are colonized by the Americans, that we know there are two anthems. And I can't really talk well because though I love my country and I love the people who did the national anthem and they were very impressive because it's a very strong prayer, I am of the belief that our national anthem should actually be Daima by Eric Wainaina.
You've said this before. This is not that controversial for you.
It's not controversial.
Why?
Have you sang that song? Sing it.
Yeah,
Any Kenyan, put your hand up, yeah? And this should be your cutout for the TikTok, okay?
Okay, fine.
Any Kenyan, put your hand up if you've not almost shed a tear when singing Daima Mimi Mkenya. If you don't remember 2007, like 2008, you're sitting down and the NTVs just and all the nation, whatever they're called, the stations are playing it on repeat. Though I'm playing the national anthem, and second of all,
okay, you do have a point, yeah.
and the army sometimes plays the national anthem a bit off key. I'm just gonna say, I love the Jeshi. I love them.
Yeah, could you have said that first?
I love the Jeshi.
But
please make sure that is also.
Yeah, but you need to work on your pitching a little bit.
I love the Jeshi, but sometimes the pitch is a bit off.
Okay.
Yes.
No, yeah, fair enough. It is. Okay, my favorite thing, because you know how the Kenyan national anthem begins on a really strong, right? Mm-hmm. It's really interesting to watch people like fumble as they find that note. And it's just, I get it, because I've been there. It's hard.
Have you ever been in a choir? And you know, the national anthem, if it's sung a cappella,
it's beautiful.
Has to start with the tenors.
Yeah, such a powerful.
Let me tell you, that work of finding that key. And if you start the wrong key, the whole group has to go the wrong key. We go together.
It's not just that. Then you have to sing the entire national anthem, as in particular the sopranos are looking at you with such shade in their eyes.
Imagine if you started too high. It's already... Imagine if it goes higher.
And they're just like, you motherfucker, do you not understand? This is A.
She didn't say the F word. She said Jack.
I said, this is a swear-friendly podcast, to be honest with you.
I still reject that.
Oh my
Anyways,
God.
let's go to our...
You know what?
Vigilante of the day.
Okay, we have spent way too much time talking about this.
Absolutely.
Okay, so as you know, this is a drink-friendly podcast. So what am I drinking today?
Chai.
Usually I leave a little bit of something so I can add a sound effect. So I have to do it again.
Oh,
what am I drinking today? Okay, so what I'm drinking today is
chai,
which is Kikuyu and also Swahili for tea. Yeah.
She's lazy. Yeah. She's not drinking alcohol of night. I don't know what's going on.
Okay, you know what? Here's what. After my 25th birthday, my body's ability to process alcohol just went into the toilet.
You know, you're almost 26.
I'm 27. Yeah, it was that bad. It was that my body was like, we're done. Are you drinking anything?
I am drinking a hot cup of nothing.
This is your house. You know, you can make yourself something.
Unfortunately, one of my favorite TikTokers is a Karapa guy, and his favorite song, I think I played it for you, what it is? I'm broke! I'm broke, man, so even water is a privilege.
Oh my God.
I'm just kidding, I just don't feel like anything.
Okay, fine. Are you ready to get started?
I've been ready for the whole time.
Okay, so we're going to start off this episode by talking about just the sheer pettiness of the Kenyan government. Now, you know me, I love me some petty behavior because I'm petty all the time.
Yeah, I'm petty.
But when it's applied like from the government to an individual citizen, it is as hilarious as it is troubling for very obvious reasons, right? Yeah. Because it's funny watching it because you're like, oh, this is some pathetic weak dick shit. But if you're the victim, it will destroy your life.
I don't agree that it's WDS. I'm not gonna say what
weak dick shit.
There you go. I'm not gonna agree, but I agree with the sentiment.
Okay, so first they banned JM from addressing the masses in colleges and also in his own constituency.
That was literally the blueprint for African politics of the 1960s. Someone is getting too popular, bro. At all costs, they can't speak.
Which was weird because he was an assistant minister at the time and he was still banned from speaking to the people.
I think they did the same to Jaramogi.
Yeah, they did. It's weird. Then they also took away his pistol, which meant that he could not defend himself against cops or any potential or would-be assassins.
Sure he had his own defenses.
And like, him not having a pistol was also particularly shitty. Because the cops sure as fuck were not going to come and defend him. Not at all. And how do I know this? I know this because the government would find out which roads or routes he was taking, and then they would block him from using those roads with the Kenya police.
Perfect. Perfect.
And JM's response to being treated this way, his first response was to resign from being an assistant minister.
Yeah, that's always step one.
Yeah, and officially join the backbenchers in parliament. This was back in the day when ministers were PSs, so like even if you left your CS post or your PS post, you could still be a part of
MP.
government. Yeah,
you're an MP.
So now the government's next job was to be like, oh, he still is in this government of ours. Okay, let's kick him out of government. In 1974, they forbade him from campaigning, and that was an election year. And yet he still won his constituency in a landslide. He won 16,000 votes, and his two rivals combined only got 5,000.
And imagine, that's a time where altering votes was a thing. So the other candidates were so weak that the government couldn't step in and alter the results.
Because everyone would have known. Everyone would have known.
No,
you stole this.
You'd have created a revolution.
So then the government, so now he was back in parliament. They could not get rid of him that easily. So the government was like, crackety crack, let's buckle the fuck up. We're going to get serious about this. And then they stopped him from celebrating his birthday.
That's a bit petty.
In 1974, his friends, his family, like diplomats, all these big people gathered at one of his ranches, and the government was like, "No, you're not gonna be able to do that." So they told cops to go to his house, and they stopped anyone from going in and forced everyone out, and then stayed to make sure that everyone had left.
Oh my God! Okay.
You see, like now, do you see why I'm calling it weak dick shit?
I agree with the pettiness.
Yeah, it's
Still not agreeing with WDS.
But here's where it takes a turn for the deadly, right? Because around this time, 74, 75, JM becomes aware that people are trying to kill him. Like, things have escalated. His allies are like, please just go to Jomo, smoothen things out. Like, this is not worth your life, please. So in 74, 75, JM went to Kenyatta's home in Gatundu. He went for lunch, and they hashed it out. They had like a real bro moment with the whole, like, hands... You know, that really loud handshake you do that makes that clapping sound. They had one of those.
You know how he probably was. I'm just remembering, like, the B-roll.
Yes.
You'd have heard Jomo be like, yes! You know how he has that raspy voice? You know, I can hear it. I can see it.
So they came to an agreement. In this agreement, JM would lay off criticizing Kenyatta, which was Kenyatta's main issue with him. And in return, Kenyatta would take the state's foot off his neck. He'd just be like, would relax everything.
Okay.
According to Paul Mwangi in his book, The Black Bar, and I quote, "It was this meeting that made JM's death definite. The Kikuyu clique was not ready to contend with the Kenyatta-friendly JM vying for succession." Because remember, all of this was basically instigated by people within government fearing that JM would successfully supplant Kenyatta and fuck up their shit.
F the system.
And fuck up their shit. So they really tried to kill him. And first they shot at his car. When he reported this incident to the police said, "Damn, it's an epidemic. You know, our cars were just shot yesterday." But like JM left the station being like, "I guess everything's okay. Nothing is wrong here." Which is weird for him, which is weird for that to be your reaction to, you know, being shot at. Around this time, an organization called the Maskini Liberation Movement was also established, and rumor has it JM was the head of this organization.
What is it called again?
Maskini Liberation Movement.
Okay.
MLM. Soon after, bombs rocked Nairobi City, and the police blamed the Maskini Liberation Movement, and then they also blamed JM.
Smart.
Yeah,
This is building your case. Like, he's a terrorist now.
Yeah.
You're trying to make him, he's a terrorist.
Yeah, because now he had the words, the government was listening to the words, so now that he's had to move into action.
No, this sounds a lot like a neighbor country that I'm not going to mention.
Do you really think they could do anything to you?
You know, maybe one day I'll work with them. What happens then?
You say, what's up? Okay, you know what? I could have said the name, but
And you know exactly who I'm talking about.
I don't want
Book
to.
was released about him a few years ago. There's a huge case. There's a big movie about that place in that big time. If you ever want to figure what that is, ask Aileen. She has the guts.
Okay.
She has the BDE to do it.
BDE?
Does she have it?
Okay. So, the state of affairs really stressed out JM because he was like, I did not plant any bombs. Now the government is trying to come for my ass. I'm not able to move freely. I can't speak freely. Like, he was just stressed the fuck out. So much so the doctors were telling him, you need to go on a holiday. Like, just go to Mombasa for a couple of weeks. Everything will be fine. So he booked a bus to Mombasa. At the very last minute, one of his friends convinced him to stay in Nairobi for just a little bit longer, which saved his life. Because later that bus exploded, killing 27 people and injuring 100 people.
This is why I'm not sure it was government who did it.
Really?
Yeah.
Why not?
Collateral damage.
Do you really think the government cares?
Yes.
Okay, what makes you think the government cares? Because I have never gotten that sense.
Think of all, like, confirmed government plots of killing people. How many of them have to do with killing other people? It's all about poisoning you.
It's very direct.
Arresting you, hanging you, bombing your bus, unless as government, you're like, okay, this terrorism thing, maybe there was a problem with MLM, as you call it, Maskini Liberation Movement, and they killed him via bomb, maybe.
So you're spinning the story
Like
even
if you
more.
spin it, then fine. But it makes no sense for government to like destroy 27 fresh lives. Like they don't care that much, but they actually care about other people's lives.
Okay. So unfortunately, the police tried to implicate JM in that bombing. They were like, "It's your fault." You see,
That makes more sense.
you see. And then they asked him to come into the station to answer questions in a quote unquote friendly atmosphere.
Like just pause for a second. What if he was doing a Tupac? Like, is that what they were trying to sell? You know how people are like, Tupac is still alive, he faked his own death? What if JM's plan, before he got killed, was to fake his own death? Like, things were so... I'm telling you, we understand the point of critical thinking. And I know that this may not be that well off for some people, but like, what if you bomb a bus, you disappear, and everyone assumes you died in the and your remains are never found. Everyone thinks you died in the bus. Then you go to like Ecuador and live the rest of your life.
They're just easier ways to disappear, though.
No, but if you know that people are coming for your life, you have to like assume they did it.
Okay, fine, fair enough. It just,
Like,
I don't
this
know.
is very unlikely, but I'm just saying, what if he did a Tupac?
Wait, hang on. I completely missed the whole point of your analogy. Do you believe Tupac is still alive?
I am 40-60. Like 40% of me believes that he was like deuces. I know he's not the best example, but you've heard. Was it Suge Knight? Of course, Suge Knight is probably the one who did it. But he said, he insinuated that Tupac may still be alive. And there's this whole movement that are like, Tupac is alive. He faked his own death. So that's why I said did a Tupac. Like, he's dead.
Yeah,
but people assume he could be alive.
Well, I definitely think JM is dead.
Yes.
Yeah, I definitely think he died.
No, the second one, he definitely died. I'm just saying, like, what if plan A
Was to kill
for him?
27
He's like,
people?
These guys are coming for me. I need to disappear, fake my death, and I'm gone. And they'll never find me again because they'll assume I'm dead. I'm just saying.
Okay. I mean...
It makes no sense, but it makes kind of sense.
It makes no sense, but it does make a stupid amount of sense. It makes about as much sense as a conspiracy theory, to be honest.
That's exactly what this is.
Yeah, so now the date is March 2nd, 1975. And in less than 24 hours, JM would be dead.
Dum, dum, dum.
Now, oh my god, this name. According to the former special branch spy James Lando Kwatenge, JM's...
Hey, you said it correct.
Thank you so much.
I'm very
Woo!
impressed. I remember how you struggled with Senior Chief Warohio.
Warohio. Hey, anyway.
This one impressed.
James Lando Kwatenge. JM's death was an accident. It wasn't like, yes, the state was trying to kill him, but he wasn't supposed to die, if that makes sense. Right?
Okay.
Even though that his death was planned, his assassinators were not given the green light. So it was basically like a series of unfortunate events that led to his death on the 2nd or 3rd of March of 1975.
Loki, I love that book though.
Which book?
A series of unfortunate events.
Oh my god, the series is fantastic. It's great.
The book is better.
Okay.
But anyways.
So there are many accounts of what happened next. I'm going to give you two. One is by the Truth, Justice, and Reconciliation Commission, because they did their own investigation. And then the other one is like more fun.
Okay.
So according to the TJRC, Ben Gethy, who was the security chief under Jomo, went to
GSU.
went to JM's home to provide him with his gun. Not JM's gun, Gethy's gun. Because remember, JM's gun had already been confiscated by the state.
Yeah.
Now, he was picked up by Gethy at the Hilton Hotel at 7 p.m.
Yeah.
And this was when he was taken to the Special Branch HQ at Kingsway House. There, he met with Patrick Shaw, NYS boss Warohio Itote, DCI head Ignatius Nderi, and Kenyatta's head of security Arthur Wanyoike. Wanyoike, thank you.
By the way, you should one day, like, I've always had an idea of doing a podcast about the white people of Kenyan history.
Patrick Shaw. Ooh.
Y'all need to listen to the stories of Patrick Shaw.
Like, if you thought Bruce Mackenzie was up to some shit, nah, Patrick Shaw was
You know, the whole
law.
story is Patrick Shaw came to Kenya looking for drama. Like he
No way.
Yeah, like he saw Kenya as like the wild, wild west. And he would appear any shootout.
He would just show
appear.
up.
And he was not a cop. He was a police reservist. And he'd just show up. And then the thieves were so scared of him because if the cops arrive, there's a 50% of them leaving. If Patrick Shaw is there, he killing you himself.
Yes.
So
Yeah. So
do one on Patrick Shaw. I'm just
So
saying.
now, JM was in a room with this man, with Patrick Shaw.
Is that like a true thing? Did that happen?
Yeah, this is according to the TJRC. Like, this is them in their final report.
Okay.
Now, once in a room with these men, they surrounded JM. Getty was standing behind him, blocking his door, so he couldn't leave. And Getty was the only one who also knew JM was armed. The rest of them did not know JM had a gun.
Okay.
Yeah. So in this meeting, the men asked him about some missing, quote unquote, foreign funds. And JM was like, "What? What are you talking about? What? No, I don't know anything about these funds." But then Thungu, Kenyatta's head of security, said, "No, you stole them. I know you stole them. Where's the money?" JM was like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" Then he grew very defensive and an argument ensued.
Yeah.
Thungu then punched JM, knocking out 3 of his front teeth. And in self-defense, JM withdrew his gun and pointed it at the head of Kenyatta's security.
Now, that's okay. If you are being surrounded by the scariest people in the country,
Don't bring a gun.
don't remove your gun. Just let them beat you.
Somebody punched you, though. You're acting on instinct.
My instinct says, cower. Cower.
Wait, I actually remember reading a blog that was making the argument that bravery gets you killed. Cowardice is what we need more of in the world.
Think the brave leaders, like the ones we admire, Thomas Sankara,
Lumumba.
Patrice Lumumba.
Dead.
Where are they? Muammar Gaddafi. Where are they? The cowards. As in, okay, now he's almost gonna die. The one who killed Thomas Sankara. Can't remember his name. Now he's in trouble, but he took over his country for 24 years.
He still got to eat his cake.
Yeah.
Yes.
The cowards live.
Yes. I'm
Remember,
agreeing with you.
You said 48 laws of power.
Yes.
Do your stuff quietly. Take the beatings and then go home and brood. And plan something, like plan to assassinate those people. But don't remove your gun in that moment of anger. But we do remember from your previous blog, part 1, that he was an ex-Mau Mau guy. He was arrested. He was a detainee. So he fought not
back.
a coward.
Yeah, he would fight back. He has always fought back.
But I like that you gave that story because a number of people closer to that situation do believe that JM was killed for business.
Yes.
Not for politics.
Yes.
And this TJRC report
Is
seems
very-
to imply
Yeah.
that it was government people, but it was business.
So if you read the TJRC report, especially the interviews they collected about JM and then how they compiled it into a single narrative, what's very interesting is that they do everything but explicitly blame the state. And you get it because like you're reporting to the state, they're the ones paying your bills, and the Kenyan government is not known for being forgiving sometimes. Let's just
No government ever is forgiving.
put it that way.
Governments are not human beings. They are entities and they interact to protect status quo. And so anything going against status quo normally does not end up very well, unless you're very clever about it.
So JM was not really being clever when he pulled out his gun. At this point, Gethy perked up. He was like, he noted down everything you had said of that if this man shoots the head of the president's personal security with a gun that I gave him, my head is on the chopping block. No. So he restrained JM before, no, he didn't restrain him. Before JM could shoot his weapon, Gethy shot JM in the arm to like disarm him, yeah.
Correct.
And after JM was shot, Gethy handcuffed him and tried to calm him down because JM was like, you shot me, what the fuck, you shot me.
Yeah.
And Gethy was like, you need to shut up, don't tell anyone what happened here, we will move on with our life. And JM was like, no, how dare you. Like he was not gonna keep it in because JM was gonna do JM shit.
Yeah.
And here is where the TJRC report and what happened and what people think happened, this is where they differ. Because according to the TJRC, JM was ferried into another car of a guy called John Mutungu. He was the Gong ward councillor. He left the special branch alive, and he was killed in Gong Forest, where his body was found.
So John Mutungu is allegedly the one who killed him.
No, he's just all the report says is that he's the guy that drove him to the forest, and
who
he
was
left
Mutungu?
alive.
Who was Mutungu again?
The Gong ward councillor.
So why was he being like?
Again, I don't.
If it's a high level security issue, and you're trying to calm down, why are you taking him to Gong? Why are you taking him to Gong?
Alive. It's the alive.
Why are you leaving him? No, I'm just like, can you imagine? Just think. Okay, let's say you're the head of GSU.
Yes.
I am some crazy police reservist, and the other head of police, Jomo Kenyatta's personal head of security. We're all like here together.
Yeah.
Like, so we are the highest level of security.
Yeah.
We think we're confronting a guy. Things go rough. We shoot the guy in the hand, and then in the arm,
And then knock out 3 of his teeth.
and knock out 3 of his teeth. And then we're like, okay, yeah, this random ward MCA counselor, please take this guy to Gong. Let him go calm himself down. And why is he going to Gong?
The report does not say.
Like, what is with did JM live in Gong?
No.
So
Maybe they were going out of the city limits to have a chat in a friendlier atmosphere.
do you know all my beliefs before hearing you about maybe to someone else who did it? If that's the excuse, bro,
Wait, okay.
government killed this guy.
Okay, so the TDRC then notes that JM's body was shot 5 times with 2 different guns, which suggests that there were 2 different gunmen.
So MC ward
Wait,
leader.
wait. And the select committee that was commissioned to investigate this version of events confirms that JM got into a car, or rather JM's body was put in a car. It was dropped off in Gong Forest, that he was shot 5 times. It confirms the details.
So he was shot 5 times at Gong Forest.
We don't know where.
We don't know if it was Gong Forest or we don't know if it was in the
Yes.
special branch Kingsway.
Now, according to popular accounts, JM was killed at Kingsway because he could not and would not remain silent. We don't know who shot him, but what we do know is that every single person in that room was tied to Jomo Kenyatta. So JM could not be found at the special branch. They had to take his body somewhere else. And from what we know, like, they didn't plan on killing him. This was just like shit got too real and somebody had a very itchy trigger finger.
Okay.
Right? So at this point, they were like, oh, dip. Now we have a very dead body that we need to move, and it cannot be seen. They were moving a dead body. And here is where, like, my true crime soul was just tickled because, here's what they did to his body. You know, that's disrespectful. I'm sorry to James' family. But this is what they did.
Get close to the mic. Get close to the mic for this one.
They cut his fingers. They gouged out his eyes. If you do these 2 things, it makes identifying the body
Very difficult.
a lot harder, right? Now, according to Hornsby, Charles Hornsby, the doyen of Kenyan history, weirdly enough,
you should really explain what doyen means.
the Geo-Kenyan history, which is very weird. According to him in his book, they say that JM's face was also burned with acid to make identification even harder. But, you know, as a handy tip from, you know, me as a non-murderer to potential murderers out there, if you are trying to hide a body, either burn it or drown it. Those are your best options.
Another question: Why just put the face on acid? Why not just
the entire body? I don't know. That's what I'm saying. Like, it felt very sloppy. Like, it wasn't planned. It just is just people trying to clean up a mess.
this is a reaction?
Yeah. So they then removed, in fact, actually, if these guys were taking it seriously, what they should have done is that they should have quartered JM's body. So remove the arms, split up the torso, remove the legs, split up the head. You then remove the teeth. You sand off all the fingernails and the toenails, and then get rid of any identifying features. And then you take JM's body and spread it to the 4 corners of the country.
Or just boil it in acid.
Or that.
And then get rid of the teeth.
Or that. Either way, they were lazy about it. By the way, this is in no way supposed to be helpful tips.
We're just being critical.
Yeah, we're just hypothesizing. Please, I do not want my ass to show up at a trial.
Like, you imagine Aileen from Utajua Hujui podcast invited to go and explain why she was giving tips
on how to hide a body.
On how to hide a body.
No.
Disclaimers: you're a lawyer, so if we get in trouble,
Yeah, it's very strong disclaimer.
it is your fault.
Now, after doing all this shit to his body, burning it with acid, removing his fingerprints, and also gouging out his eyes, they then put his body in the back of a meat truck and then transported it to Ngong Forest, where they hoped the animals would do more damage. So on the 3rd of March, his body was discovered. And
By a herdsman.
Yeah, by a herdsman. But when the herdsman was there, they also found like a GSU car filled with officers. And nobody knew why those officers were there. They would not answer any questions.
Oh yeah, government.
They were just there.
Yeah, they did this.
And then soon after the report had been filed, Inspector Henry Waga arrived at the scene to take charge of the investigation. JM's body was moved to the mortuary.
City mortuary.
Yes, where it was labeled unidentified Luo thief. It's the Luo for me.
Like, how the hell would you know?
It's the knowing, but it's also like it says
You're like
you're playing
trying
on
to push people off the scent.
You're playing on people's biases. Yeah, which is shitty. But when this body went to the mortuary, nobody took any pictures of it. Nobody even tried getting fingerprints. They just showed up, took the body, left. And in fact, when the body was at the mortuary, it was just left out in the open to rot and
get worse.
decompose. And it was rotting. That's where it stayed for 10 days, from the 3rd to the 12th of May.
Until, and I remember, I don't know if this is what your account is.
Okay.
But I read from, I think it was Hornsby or someone on an article, that it was an Israeli friend of JM Kariuki who called his, I think it was the third wife, Terry. Was that her name?
Yeah, Terry. It was Terry that found the body.
Who called Terry and gave her a hint, like it's an unidentified Israeli individual, and gave her a hint to check City Mortuary.
Yeah, so I didn't read anything about that. But officially, nobody knew who this person was. Then 3 days later, on the 6th of March, JM's family reported, by the way, we haven't seen him.
He's missing.
He's been missing. They went to Parliament. Soon after, Moy appeared in Parliament to account for JM's whereabouts.
Yeah.
He told Parliament that JM was in Zambia. Don't worry, it's fine. He's in Zambia. And the Daily Nation apparently confirmed this by calling the hotel JM was supposedly staying at and confirming the reservation.
Oh my God.
I don't know what they confirmed. I don't know.
Either they were paid or the hotel was paid.
Or the government went so far as to book a room for JM,
yeah.
and send somebody in his name, right? Now, the family found this incredibly suspicious because they were like, if JM was traveling, he would have told us.
Someone.
He would have told us. So they completely dismissed the narrative. Now, JM's wife, specifically Terry, was like, nah, I know something doesn't feel right. I'm going to check every mortuary until I find my husband.
Yeah.
And she finally went to the right city mortuary. When she got there, she was told, you can't come in. Meanwhile, as she was kept at the gate, other people kept going in. And she was like, no, not you. Them, fine, but not you. And the people that were going in were like GSU officers, other cops, like other people that were tangentially related to Kenya's security apparatus.
Yeah.
And she was like,
How?
But finally, she was allowed to see his body and she was able to confirm his identity. JM Kariuki was indeed dead. He was brutally murdered and left to rot in a mortuary.
Yeah.
Terry returned to her family and confirmed what they had all suspected. JM's daughter, reflecting on the moment, said, and I quote, "So when the news came that he died, the morning I was in the convent school, and the headmistress called me and she said, 'Remember, your father is missing. They have found him, but unfortunately,
He's passed.
he is dead.' I understood exactly what happened to my father, even though I was 11 years old. My biggest fear was that my mother would be next." As an 11-year-old, you know what happened.
Yeah.
You know it wasn't like just
It wasn't an accident. It wasn't a robbery.
You know.
This was someone who did it.
Yeah, and this is her speaking on it like when she's in her 60s, 70s. That's how deep of an impact, how deep of a core memory that conversation was. Now, as soon as news broke of JM's death to the rest of the country, people began abandoning his family in droves. Every single one of them was afraid, I'm going to be next.
Yeah. Fear is the first response, isn't it?
But the rest of the country, they were fucking pissed.
Actually, I remember reading. So I remember the Israeli thing, by the way, it was the Nation who said it. So I'm just saying. So it's not a hypothesis. It's the Nation.
The Daily Nation.
It's an article by the Nation. But I remember hearing that Parliament was informed, and immediately like at like noon or something, a bunch of them like sprinted straight to City Mortuary to confirm that it was JM who died. So even them, I totally, yeah. Anyways, back to you. I'll give my opinion later.
Okay, so everyone, okay, what made this assassination different from like Tomboya, Pio Gama Pinto, Amadou Skodek, was that everyone knew the government was involved. Because with those other ones, there was enough of like a blurry line for you to say maybe, maybe not. But for this one, given how publicly he was targeted, everyone came to the same conclusion.
Basically, in my opinion, this one was not premeditated.
Yes.
The other ones were premeditated.
They were planned.
This one,
it was a mess.
Was a bad accident.
It was a mess.
Every reaction you have, I think, from the situation, let's say we go back to the point in which he's shot. And he is killed, because let's go with the truth. Let's go by he was killed in that place.
Yes.
Everyone's response, everyone's reaction from then on shows like it reached a certain point. The GSU dumped him. Then they find him. Okay, so an inspector finds him. The inspector probably was not informed that JM was killed, and he realizes the situation, and he's like, "Oh crap! Okay." My job, cover up.
Yes.
So he does something. It goes to the morgue. They're like, oh crap. So what they do, not act. They're like, we wait until someone higher up gives us instructions. And his body's just left.
Yes.
Because they're like, clearly, he is not supposed to be found. GSU, then now the lady comes in. They're like, oh crap. So, because honestly, if the situation had come and Ben Geddy or those people accused of killing him are there and they're informed that his body has been taken back to the mortuary, they would have immediately said, take it out of the mortuary.
Yeah. They would have done something.
So it shows like it's a series of events that just didn't go anywhere.
Yes.
Like everyone was like, oh damn, I'm not going to touch this, leave it.
So the suspicion of the Kenyatta government was so prevalent that even the British themselves communicated a memo saying as much. They said, and I quote, Kariuki was murdered at the president's behest. And this was like about a month or two after the murder had been orchestrated. Soon after, there were protests on the streets, and they weren't protesting just JM's death, but everything fucked up with the Kenyatta presidency. Because it was 75, so economic growth was starting to wane a little bit.
All shocks were coming.
All shocks had been there in 73.
73 and 4.
Yeah, and then there was, I think 76 was the beginning of a coffee boom. So we were right before the coffee boom. We were right before good economic times.
Yeah.
So shit was hard. And you're seeing your politicians amassing ever greater wealth while you and your family are struggling. And you feel like you can't say anything about it because the state has so thoroughly repressed your voice that to speak out is to basically sign your own death warrant. So when JM died, it was like the dams burst. Everyone went to the streets and they were protesting the corruption, the unequal wealth distribution, the worsening economy, the mismanagement of everything since independence. A lot of people, for the first time, were very publicly asking, what about me? Where are my fruits from Uhuru? Yeah? And interestingly, people also protested in songs in Kikuyu. I will not sing them because for reasons. But these Kikuyu songs were directed to Kenyatta himself. They were written and sang in Kikuyu so that he would hear them and understand what they were saying. The song went in English. People of our mother, since Kariuki has died and he has not stolen or killed anybody, he has died for being good, and you ask yourself what you will die for. And then immediately President Kenyatta banned the song.
Yeah, that was a very 1970s thing.
Yeah.
Ask Gugi Wadiongo.
Then Kenyatta went to President Nyerere of Tanzania because protest songs were then also being imported from Tanzania into Kenya. And he went to Nyerere being like, brother to brother, could you kill it? Yeah, could you kill it? And Nyerere was like, yeah, don't worry, bro, I got you. He killed the songs.
I like how you assume this is how they spoke.
I'm low key hoping that maybe in 50 years when we have a president that's our generation, I'm really hoping that a lot of their dialogue is filled with like fam, flex.
Did you say
Gap.
50 years?
Yeah.
We're in our 20s. You want a president of our generation to come in their 70s?
Well, think about it. Like Ruto is
I think
of
Ruto,
my
50s.
Yeah.
Got into president in his 50s.
Yeah, so like Kenyatta
got into president in his 50s.
Fine.
Jomo in his 70s, 80s. Moi in his 50s.
Okay, so fine, I'm wrong. In 30 years then. In 30 years.
It's only Jomo and Kibaki. Those are the only two old ones we've had.
Yeah, but okay, the reason I'm saying it that way is because, this particular season of politics seems to be realizing the dreams of the political aspirations of my mother's generation. And that is at least 2 generations, maybe 1 at least, removed from me.
And not to ask, but range of your mother's age? 40s and 50s?
Yeah, yeah.
50s?
50s.
There you go. So
Yeah.
you'll be in your 50s. Relax.
Yeah, but like power concentrates, Matthew effect, like eventually.
Unless we have a Bernie Sanders of that time, I don't think we're going to have a situation
Where
otherwise.
Jacoya could come back. You never know, man.
50, 30 years from now.
You never know. Jacoya could come back just to be like, fuck it,
I mean, I'll lie
guys.
to you. If I got the opportunity, and I was a bit taller, because I realized you need like some height to be president. If I was a bit taller, I would use the Wajakoya populism.
A free
and,
weed for
like,
everyone.
Like take the advice of everybody and just go with it, man. Just fly with it. I think Wajakoya hit it to like 60%. Imagine if he hit it like to 100%. You're not gonna win, but damn, you're gonna make a change.
Like, imagine if he had started earlier and like really started building his campaigns from the grassroots, like basically now for the 2027 elections.
Yeah, he would have gotten 5%.
He would have done some damage. He would have
5%.
done some damage.
Which
Is
5%
enough.
is worth negotiating.
Yeah.
0.9, what was not even 0.9.
It was so little.
0. Whatever, not worth negotiating.
So, now, as I was saying, another interesting thing about these protests, it was that it wasn't limited to a particular tribe. It didn't matter if you were black, it didn't matter if you were white, didn't matter. Michael Jackson. It did not matter. Everyone was pissed. I'm quoting now from Jake Harns, and I quote, "Protesters were enraged and energized by Kariuki's assassination, mobilized not by elites appealing to their ethnic constituencies, but rather through shared disgust with yet another alleged manifestation of state violence." So things only got worse when the funeral happened, which was on the 16th of March at his Kanyamwi estate. There we go. This time, politicians joined in. And they transformed his assassination into a national tragedy. According to the Weekly Review, Waruru Kanja, Nyeri MP and JM's ally, said, and I quote, "We know of these dirty plans by a certain clique." Charles Rubia said that an elimination list existed in Kenya and that he and Martin Shikuku were on that list.
Rubia was a big guy in the fight. Like, he became like the biggest partner of one of the greatest opposition figures in our nation's history. Kenneth Matiba. He was his number 2.
Mess. And then Shikuku said at the funeral, to be able to live in Kenya today, one is expected to be stupid, a bootlicker, or corrupt. And I feel like that statement is true today.
It's true of government. It's true of politics everywhere. Like, Kenya is not special.
It isn't, but it just...
I have another quote from Maina Wanjigi.
Okay, go, tell us.
Wanjigi, like the father
Of Jimmy
of
Wanjigi.
the big Jimmy Wanjigi. He said, and this was probably, I think this was during the parliamentary session. He said, and he was the Kamkunji MP, he said, "Now the hyenas have eaten one of their own."
Ooh, poetry in the 70s.
So, like, he was part of the crew that believed that JM was one of them. And that was like a huge thing. So some used him as a political tool to start talking about opposition politics. Others used him as, bro, you are not that innocent. And both were right, but both were wrong. So it's a very interesting combination.
That's actually something I was going to bring up in the script, because what's interesting is that the whole point of a funeral is to eulogize a person's life, celebrate the entirety of that person's life, to accept the good and the bad. Yet at this funeral, not a single person mentioned the fact that JM was a man calling for wealth distribution who had himself amassed an ungodly amount of wealth through less than legal means.
Iteration of the hustler movement.
He was, and it's just that weird cognitive dissonance of realizing that, hey, this man also himself is not perfect and did do some fucked up shit.
Yeah.
But he also spoke for us,
And
which is more than anyone ever
it
did.
never condones the government, or clearly it wasn't. That, you really answered my question, because, and I feel in the first part we talked about how I believed it wasn't Kenyatta who did it. And then you talked about how this clearly was a mistake. And I'm like, now I completely agree with you. This was the government reacting to a mistake of one person.
It was
realizing how damaging it would be if that event had occurred under the watch of the government.
You're right you chose the best word there, reacting rather than responding.
It was reacting.
Yeah, it was just a gut, fuck, I'm afraid, I need to lash out, as opposed to measured fear, measured interaction.
And then, when you said when you reminded me he was found in Gong, Robert Auko was found in some random place. Like, bro, these guys either you're found at the scene of the crime or you're found literally in some random forest, far away, burnt up.
Yes.
And it's the burning up thing that you're like, clearly, whoever did this did not. You see, if I'm a robber, and I kill you, I'm done. Like, as long as my evidence is not there, I'm gone.
Yeah.
But for me to kill you and then be like, oh crap, I need to hide your body.
It's the after the thought, because then you know what you did was wrong. It's
Not
any
just
attempt to hide.
You know the impact of this person being found.
Yeah.
But anyways, back to you.
So the state, is now facing protests every single day of the week. Even politicians are becoming a lot more explicit in their condemnation of the state, which is new for the Kenyatta government, because obviously you have these flare-ups, right? But for every single person to not only express their disappointment in you, but feel confident in expressing that disappointment is new, is an entirely new situation. So they tried to smooth things over. Kenyatta released a statement expressing regret at JM's death, calling JM a fallen angel. At the funeral, when a state rep showed up and tried to talk to the crowd, he was shouted down. And on March 19th, KOTU, the labor union, still licking the ass of the president even then, issued a public statement saying that it was the presence of British troops in Kenya that had killed JM. He said, and I quote, KOTU said, and I quote, the presence of British troops within Kenya could be interpreted by our people to mean that Britain is a collaborator in the wanton and beastly murder of JM.
Finger pointing.
It was finger pointing, which is weird for KOTU. I've never understood KOTU as an organization. You're a labor union, yes, but are you?
You are, definitely. It's just KOTU has the most complicated relationship because you have to work with government but against it at the same time. I think if it was that time, was it Lubembe? It may have been Lubembe at the head. But anyways, it's a very interesting relationship KOTU normally has with government. So they are fighting for your rights, but they have to smooth, especially when the government is all powerful. Yeah, you can't have a bad relationship with the government because that just affects your money.
So the government was on the defensive very clearly. So now they were like, fuck it, let's attack. So they started amplifying. Yes, they started amplifying criticisms about JM, trying to spin a counter narrative. That he was a terrorist and that, he was a terrorist, he was hypocritical, he wasn't being serious about you guys. But the attempt was so lazy and so half-hearted that every single person saw it for what it was and completely dismissed anything the government was saying. Now, while all this was going on, someone in the administration kind of realized, it's not going our way. And they took drastic measures to try to distance anyone from Jomo's government as far away from the murder as possible. A man called Kibathi, who was a criminal and a police informer, was given JM's watch. How he got JM's watch, we don't know. Who he got JM's watch from, we don't know. But he was given JM's watch and told to take it to Makongeni police station, which is 13 kilometers away from Gong Forest. Naturally, people were like, where'd you get this watch from? Why do you have this watch? And he was held in custody. Later, it emerged at the Select Committee on the Disappearance of JM's Murder that Kibathi was supposed to be a scapegoat for the assassination. The committee, which was constituted on March 14th and led by Elijah Mwangale, basically said that this man right here, he was supposed to be the fall guy, and we caught him. And after the commission was constituted, which was also the government's attempt to try to quell tensions, it just wasn't working. So the commission kind of realized, we have a bit of breathing space to do what needs to be done, because the government knows that if their hand is seen in this process, people will continue to riot. So they had that bit of breathing room. So they took about 2.5 months. They met 46 times and conducted 123 interviews with witnesses. And as soon as they began investigating, it became very clear just how deep the cover-up went. The commission, after the first batch of testimonies, recommended the arrest of every single GSU officer that was seen near JM's body. These people were arrested, but then they were quickly released.
Of course.
And now the commission was like, okay, you know what? This is a cover-up. We're going to write about this cover-up now. And they had very good reason to suspect that it was a cover-up. First, the commission, when the commission invited politicians and persons of interest to testify, they either didn't show up, like the Minister of State in the Office of the President, Mbiyu Koinange, was invited to interview. He just didn't show up. He did not apologize. He did not even pretend to see the invitation. He just...
Forget about it.
Yeah. Or when these people did show up, like DC of Nyandarua, Thuo, they were negative and incredibly hostile. Sometimes when they showed up, like Nakuru Mayor Silas Mburu Gishua, they gave conflicting information. So this forced the commission to conclude that these men had something to hide. Interestingly, Jonjo and Moy appeared for their summons. And I don't know if this means that they weren't involved, considering that it was Jonjo and Moy. I don't know if this means that they're just so good at lying that the administration were like, yeah, we can let them go. I don't know.
I think Jonjo had to go. You know, you're the AG. You have to go.
But he was also the president's right-hand man.
Yeah, no, he wasn't the president's right-hand man.
He was damn near close enough.
Moyes, yeah, he was more Moyes guy. But anyways... Jonjo, I think, had to appear. And yeah, if you're in on the lie, as an AG, you better be good at playing the game.
So I don't know. So that's evidence number one. Evidence number two for the cover-up was that the commission was not allowed to investigate DCI's files on this issue. This was just the tip of the iceberg. The Kenya police also refused to tell the commission what they knew. And as a fun fact, do with this what you will, Ben Gethy would later become police commissioner after this whole fiasco.
Yeah.
Just, I'm not connecting any dots. I'm just...
He was also humiliated a few years later. Ben Gethy was arrested and humiliated during the attempted coup
82?
of 1982. So his promotion and all these things, his story still ends up very sad.
I think it's just because he kind of backed the wrong horse.
Yeah, and you know, GSU, there was all these assumptions that they got involved. Even though it was really Air Force, it was a big deal. Then Getty got in big trouble.
So point number three for a cover-up. The commission also discovered that the shots that killed JM came from a gun or guns belonging to a member of the presidential guard.
Why?
And what do we know about like who JM was with before he died?
That guy.
He was with Thugu, the head of security for Kenyatta. Fun fact, Thugu would later be promoted to Minister of Agriculture.
It's random.
Do with that what you will. I think the point I'm trying to make without trying to make it is you have all these people who were involved in this assassination. Later, we get cush government jobs.
Well, I don't think that was this. Like, Jomo gave his people his things. But anyways, yes, I get your point.
Then point number four is obviously the whole watch fiasco with Kibadi. But the biggest evidence for a cover-up exists in what happened when the commission presented their report to Kenyatta before tabling it to Parliament. Several members of the committee were like, you know what, I'm not going to come with you to Kenyatta's house.
No, of course not.
They even said, look, it's better for a few of you guys to go because you may never return. And if you don't return, those of us that did not go, we will continue.
Tell the story.
Which is just insane.
Brave.
Now, apparently, after Kenyatta was given this report, he read it. When he looked up from reading the report, he was fuming. He was angry because the report named and shamed so many of his allies that he believed it to be a witch hunt. The committee members were like, no, like we're not trying to do that because like if it really was a witch hunt, we would have put your name in the report, but we didn't.
To attack his power.
Which we didn't. And Kenyatta was like, okay, fine, I understand your point. But then he said, but then why are these two names here? And the two names in particular were Mbiyu Koinange and Thungu, his head of security. Why are my top men here? And Kenyatta then, or rather, let me quote from the testimony heard by TJRC. And Kenyatta replied, and I quote, Why do you have my minister's name here and my bodyguard? These are in the office of the president. It appears if it had not been for politeness, then you would have put my name there, because leaving my name and putting these names here is the thing I am questioning you about.
Yeah.
End quote. Kenyatta then took a pen, he crossed out those two names, and then he asked the head of the commission, Wangale, to initial at the change, as if he was the one that made the change and not Kenyatta.
Damn.
You see, like it's a cover up. It's just shit all the way down. Now, this is when the commission guys left, and we're like, okay, now we can table the report at Parliament. As soon as they left, Kenyatta just kind of like dipped to Mombasa, and he called for all his allies to show up in Mombasa, such that before the report could be tabled in Parliament, they began to shit on it. They began to sour public opinion against the conclusions of that report. They also came up with ways to delay its tabling in Parliament. So the first time it was presented to Parliament, the Speaker refused to even talk about it, to mention it for 2 days. When a vote was finally held to table the report, those who voted in favor of, hearing this report were victims of political reprisal. For example, John Keane, the Assistant Minister for Public Works, voted to table the report, remarking, and I quote, "Since the hyenas of Gong Forest did not eat the body of JM Kariuki, they should be honored with e.g. state medals and what have you." The others that voted in favor to hear this report are Masinde Moliro, who was a
big opposition guy.
Yeah, and Honorable Peter Kibisu, who was also an assistant minister. By 6 p.m. that evening, all three men, had lost their positions in government.
They made that statement knowing what was happening.
Yeah, so the report was finally tabled on the 3rd of June, 1975.
That's
3 months? Yeah, 3 months after to the date of his murder. And after it was tabled, nothing happened. In fact, to this date, nothing has happened.
Yep.
The people who were named in the report were never arrested or brought in for further questioning. In fact, many of the people named kept their positions or were promoted in either Jomo's government or Moi's government.
So it was more like noted.
Yes, it was like you were left
like
on red.
Where you get a send email and you're like
Noted.
That's it. You're not saying yes. You're not saying no.
I've just seen it.
I have seen it.
I'm not going to do
Thank
anything.
you.
Yeah. So now the government kind of just hoped that the fact that this report existed would be enough, and they just moved on.
Yep.
They were fully aware that one of their own was murdered for deigning to think he might want to be president, and it is no coincidence that the Change the Constitution campaign happened in 1976. After all this instability about succession, particularly surrounding JM, you then have, was it Njonjo? No, it was...
It was Mbio.
Yeah.
It was those guys. But that was also because they saw the writing on the wall. One of the reasons that Kenyatta was going to Mombasa and Nakuru was they were hiding his health. The guy was not well.
Yeah.
But everything you've said today, as we've learned, I don't know if we are at the end or not.
We have like a page, like a half page left.
Okay, I'll save my statement.
Okay, all right. So JM's murder made it explicitly clear that the state is, as our ex-boss would say, the presidency is a jealous institution. It could not and would not allow a clear successor to emerge.
No.
The murder also affirmed the state's fundamental weakness in that it could not tolerate different poles of power, while also affirming its brute strength because it got away with murder. Close to 50 years later, we still don't know what happened.
Is it close to 50 years? It's post 50 years.
No, 50 is 2025.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, close to 50 years later, we have no idea what happened. The commission's report has not been released to the public. And it's been 50 years, which begs the question, what is in that report that is so damning that 50 years later, it still cannot be for public consumption?
I got such a bad PR idea.
What was it?
Like, if I'm the root of government...
Oh my God, you wouldn't. That's brilliant.
And I am against these dynasties, and I need to keep showing that it's a consistent year-on attempt to keep the status quo. These dynasties just protect themselves. I would release that report.
You would?
Oh, yes.
I mean, doctor it slightly.
Yes.
Doctor it slightly, but like, release it.
No, release it and then work on the narrative. Just release it to the public, because How many of us are affected? We're all hustlers. What's the issue? Throw it out there. Let the dynasties suffer.
The Kenyattas, the
Because
Koinanges.
they're trying a coup against the dynasties, especially the Kenyattas, the Odingas. What hurts them more than isolating what they feel is the money behind their biggest enemy, Odinga, by saying, look at these Kenyattas. Look at all this. And this is not advice. So please, I'm not against the Kenyattas, but I'm just saying, it'd be a smart way to do, like, to keep the narrative against them. Do it in 2025.
Yeah.
Be like, 50 years on, we have heard of all these secret things held in the stores of government, and we will release it to the public.
Do you actually want to know when would be a good year to do it? This year, 60 years of independence.
There you go.
60 years of
60
independence.
years. And you know that, I remember you guys asked me in another show we did long ago about my biggest dream. Now do you understand why the one thing I would do is learn, like, just listen,
everything,
all the secrets. I just want to know them all. Because JM, clearly, honestly, I think from your rendition, two things. That Jomo Kenyatta did not know about the murder of JM. He found out later, maybe. He was only focused on protecting his own. And his own were Bio and Thungu.
Yes, Thungu, I think, yeah.
And that's all he cared about. That this was all a series of reactions.
Yes.
And this was not laziness, but what's the thing? Like, the government failed in their attempt to cover this up. Like, as you said, every other murder they've had, except for JM Kariuki and Robert Oko, have other answers. Like, you could say, Tom Boyle shot. Was it a robbery? Was it his close allies? Was it his fight in the Luo dynasty? You could say the same with Pinto. Was it the CIA?
Yes.
But with these two, it's so obvious these were reactions. The government didn't plan this.
They were feeling threatened.
They reacted to someone's stupidity.
Yes.
And this one, it was the one who shot JM.
So now actually we're coming at the end, to the end of the episode. And I want to end with a quote from the testimonial hearings when the TJRC were collecting evidence. The quote goes, and I quote, "The act of eventual murder of JM removed a husband from his wives and father from his children. It removed the MP from his constituency that had rightly and legally elected them, removed a leader from the country who had served this country with complete sacrifice, fighting for freedom and spending his 9 years in detention. Mr. JM committed no crime because even if he had wanted to become president, it was the right of any Kenyan citizen to be ambitious. I would like any lawyer to tell me whether ambition is a crime."
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
All right, so having said all this, having catalogued the pettiness of the Kenyan government, just what happens when one person fucks up and the entire government has to rally around them, do you think things have changed? I mean, the answer to that one is yes. But do you think we could go back?
What do you mean go back?
Go back to a time like this where state reprisal and state pettiness could be so naked?
I think the one positive I have with the new constitution is it sought to protect us from a time like that happened again. In fact, it overcompensated by doing what it did in terms of over-empowering the judiciary, empowering all these things.
You know what?
I may have not used over wrongly, but empowering the judiciary, empowering all these people. I said over by mistake.
No. That's. I mean, I was just gonna say, look, now that I no longer have to toe the company line, I legitimately understand where the judiciary is coming from. Like,
Yes.
I get it. I get why
they were
like
reacting, and that's why I meant over. They were reacting, perhaps overreacting to what they were treated like in the past. They were forced to accept things that they would not accept.
Yes.
Look at the stories of what happened to Kenneth Matiba and the court cases, or how his wife signed his something, so he wasn't allowed to go for something because he didn't sign it, but he had suffered a stroke caused by the government. Like, all these things that happened, I don't think we can go back, but I will give you my final quote by one John Mishuki. Do not try and scare a snake. I can't remember the words, but
Oh, you had it like it was going to be such a nice ending.
it was going to be such a nice ending.
Oh, come on, you ruined.
Or do not rattle a snake and expect to not be bitten. When you go against the state, and we're talking now pure like critical thinking here. This is objectively. Remember that everything is on the table. If you listen to the words of James Orengo, Raila Odinga, Matiba, and all these people, they knowingly went against the state, knowing the fact that to the state, death is an option. And so JM, that was an accident. But the others go against the state, and sometimes you have to understand that the consequence of going against the state could be your life, unless you're one person.
Raila Odinga,
who has become, and his father, who became too powerful,
too big to kill.
Just the same as like Ruto now, too big to kill. Uhuru, too big to kill. If you become that, you're fine. But what they do to those people is they kill their soldiers.
I was actually going to make that next point because I'm pretty sure you watched the Mandamano on Monday.
I ignored it totally.
Really?
Yes, I told you, as you said in that advert for the last episode, I am done with all of them.
Okay, so as I was watching it, it was very clear that the government was not trying to attack Raila's protesters, like get them to shut up. They were trying to break their morale. Because what makes Raila successful, what makes him popular is the fact that people do listen to him.
He has the people.
The fact that he's able to still marshal a crowd, even though the entire country was kind of side-eyeing him most of the time. And it is just interesting that the government has now decided if we can't get you as a politician, we're going to go after your people.
That's the way you attack a leader.
Yeah.
Raila has experienced enough threats. He's experienced enough arrests. He's reached the point where it makes no difference because attack him. In fact, you attack him, you destroy Raila in any fishy circumstances, this country would not exist.
Yeah.
See,
we saw what happened in 2008.
Yeah.
We saw.
Blow up. So they can't do anything to him, but they understand how to stop him. You have to stop his people, and so they'll try things against his people.
Okay.
Some of his small soldiers, some big soldiers. It's unfortunate, but this is a government that has shown that they are not ready to negotiate. They are not ready.
Which makes
Maybe
me
2 years from now.
which makes me wonder, what is Raila's end game here? Because can you really spend the next 2 years doing this? Because eventually his people will get tired.
He knows the government can't spend 2 years waiting for this. As long as he has the finances, keep making the noise. At some point, the government will cave. It's a game of chicken.
That's it, and I think the Ruto government is too stubborn to cave.
They'll cave, but they won't cave publicly. Yeah, they'll help their people under the radar. And you'll see Raila will just get a bit quieter, still call for action, but just less, because he's getting helped under the table. Both of them have set the stage where they can't, in my view, they can't take a step back publicly, because whoever does loses. So what are they going to do? They're going to negotiate under the table. There's not going to be a handshake above table. There's going to be a handshake within closed doors, and we will never hear of it. So Raila will still be against the Ruto government, but he'll be less aggressive.
Kind of like what happened after the first public handshake in 2018, where Raila his rhetoric softened, and then it just...
Or like 2013, he never accepted his defeat. But at some point, we just sort of knew Raila as that guy. He just wasn't, he became a threat again in 2016 before 2017. But he was quieter. So that's probably what's going to happen. He's going to get quieter.
I mean, is it also possible that Raila is doing this for completely selfish reasons?
That's why you do anything in politics.
Okay, not just... Okay, the point I'm trying to make is, we all know Raila is old. As we were fond of saying, he's older than the United Nations.
You were fond of saying that. I totally reject that. Sorry.
Why?
They're the same age.
Point is, Raila is old. And with that age, especially when people start to smell that weakness that comes with old age, they tend to want to come for your power.
Oh, they're coming for him.
Yeah, so is he doing this just to show his potential enemies, potential threats, I still have it. I still have my shit.
I don't know if you remember, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, according to when this podcast was released, a bunch of Luo leaders went to State House and sat down with William Ruto just before Raila, I don't know if it's just before or just after Raila had announced the Monday Mandaman or whatever, there's a coup attempt against Raila. And he's showing them partially that the way you're going to get me is not, he is not going to be usurped. I don't think. I think the clever ones, which is why my money is behind someone who's on his court, on his side, is going to wait. It's going to bide his time. These ones who are making noise are jumping the gun. The Migunas, the Evans Kideros, they're trying. They're not powerful enough. They're going to crush all of them. Miguna, too radical.
Okay.
Kidero, too boring.
Fair.
Raila has that mix. He's radical, which appeals to his people, but he's willing to negotiate. He has the lure, the way he speaks pushes. He has the charisma when he ruffles his voice. It's very impressive. In fact, I was like, damn, I wish this Raila of now, I mean, he would have lost some of us Kikuyus, but if he stood for the 2022 election with this aggression,
he would
with this, I think he'd have done better. I think he would have done better. I think we as Kikuyus softened him too much. We didn't allow him to be
the Raila.
And now he's Raila, and he's going to show them dust. Then someone quietly, who's playing his game under the radar, who we know is going to slowly start to emerge as the successor, and is going to make his move towards the end of Raila's political time. He's biding his time. I think these ones are jumping the gun.
And I think that takes us back to the Robert Greene lesson I started the series on. Lesson law number 1: never outshine your master.
Duamoy!
Never outshine your master. Thank you so much for joining me, Kariithi. I'm done. We're done with JM Kariuki. We're going to focus on another assassination.
Who's next?
I think it might be Tomboya, IDK. I have a collaboration coming up. Whoop whoop. So I'm going to do that first.
Stop. Collaborate
And listen. Ice is back with a brand new edition.
Aileen and Kariithi out. Now you're gonna enjoy the podcast.
Thank you so much for listening to the Utajua Hujui podcast. I really appreciate you giving me your time of day. I know that your time is very valuable. If you'd like to connect with me, you can find me on Instagram at utajuahujui.pod. That is at UTAJUAHUJUI.pod on Instagram. Please don't forget to like, share, review, do all the nice things. I could really use the boost. Okay, enjoy the rest of your time on this planet. Goodbye.